So you've been telling me it's time for a new daily driver.
New daily? I've had the current daily for, I don't even know, probably at least 4 years. But it's time to move it on.
Why don't you tell some of our fans what you drive?
My daily is a Ford. It's a sedan, but it's not an XR6. It's an XR5 Mondeo, which overseas is called an ST. It's just Australia. We had the XR5 badging just to match the local XR6. But anyway, it's basically the size of a Falcon. It's only like 2 centimeters shorter. It's very practical. It's got lift back, so it's got a humongous...
That was one of the reasons we bought it, so that we could drive interstate.
I mainly bought it as a car I could drive interstate that was comfortable, and it's got massive storage. Like we can put all camera bags, tripods in the back.
When you bought it, my first thought was, why didn't they make the Falcon a liftback?
I don't understand it either.
It's so much more practical, and it's quite a nice car. It's like a heated seats and
it drives. It was interesting because people, what do you got that front wheel drive? But it drives.
Yeah, but it's not really it's a Volvo.
It's not a performance car. Look, it's a 2.5 litre 5-cylinder turbo, like a low pressure job. They only run like 9 pounds or something, so they're quite torquey. It kind of feels a bit like if you just drive a basic, say, a diesel turbo. It kind of has a power band a bit like that. They're good sounding motor, but at the end of the day, I thought, I'll put an intake on it. Of course, I didn't modify it all. It's been stock standard. The car's been quite reliable.
Yeah.
Although I'm not someone who actually drives a lot, so I don't do a lot of Ks, but it's
it's a bit of an oddball car, and they only sold them as a manual only.
Yeah, weird. This is a 1600 kilo sedan.
But it's finished off quite nice. It's not
it's got a lot of electrics in it, as you said, heated seats. It's got auto kind of...
Dual climate control, all that sort of stuff.
Auto wipers, lights.
But it's odd that the type of car it is wasn't offered in a manual. Wasn't offered in an auto, is that right?
I don't think so. No, I'm positive it's not. Yeah. It's weird. But
anyway, so the logical upgrade is an XR6.
Not a chance. No, I don't. Look, that was an odd car for me for starters because I've always liked having small, nimble cars that handle and brake. I like that kind of car. Obviously, they have to go okay, but I would still rather have a car that's a bit of an all-rounder. I don't see the point, and this is going against a lot of the cars obviously we feature, but I don't see the point in having a car that kind of just mainly does one thing well. So definitely not an XR6. It's
as you get older, you realise it's all right to have a toy on the weekend, but you do need one car that you don't have to compromise too much. Like it's sort of useful in most situations.
And look, the car's nothing actually wrong with the Mondeo, as in mechanically or
How long have you had it for?
Oh, it must be maybe up near 5 years.
Yeah, so it's time to move on.
Yeah, and I kind of bought it cheap. I bought it cheap with a lot of kilometres, and it was
cheap.
Full service history. It was like a full-on sales rep car, for all those long-haul sales reps drives. But it's done like 200,000 now. I've got no doubt it'll go to 300. It's not. That doesn't use any oil. It gets fully serviced. There's nothing actually wrong with it, but I just want to change.
Yeah. So, what do you want? Do you want rear-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive?
That is not so much important. It's more to do with this type of car. I want a small car. When I say it's kind of ironic because I'm saying how much gear this car can fit, but I just want a smaller car. I don't want to, I've got a Lancer that weighs 1,200 kilos, and I've got this thing that weighs 1,600. When you get them on the road, it's amazing how different the cars feel, even though one's old and one's newer.
Yeah, but they're two totally different purposes.
No, but I still prefer to have a lighter car on the road. I don't want a heavier car again.
No, I don't think you weren't against having a big car, but I did a quick search online for you. I actually shortlisted a few cars. I couldn't find, like, for example, Ford. You wanted something with less than 100,000 Ks. Must be a manual transmission.
Must be a manual.
It must handle well. That does rule out a lot of...
Heaps of cars.
And you can say what you want about Commodores and Falcons. They're not nimble like an all-wheel drive Japanese car. They don't really corner. A bit more effort to drive fast, I think. And how much money do you want to spend?
Me being a tight ass, I don't want to spend more than absolute max would be 20, but ideally
20 Aussie.
20 Aussie. So don't go pulling numbers out of the US that don't mean anything to us.
Yeah.
Semi-practical. I'm not like totally against two doors, but I would prefer. What's so bad about two doors?
It's got to be practical, but I'll get a two door.
I've had a two door before.
How long ago?
Oh, 10 years ago.
They get annoying. I had an Integra. It was a good little car when I had it, but the main reason I sold it was it was a two-door.
I don't have kids. I'm not.
That's got nothing to do with kids. Just throwing shit in the back.
I know the doors are massively long and you're getting out and you got to watch it a bit. But
I know with kids, you need a four-door.
What I'm saying is that's not a deal breaker with the car.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's got to handle well. It's got to be.
It's got to brake well.
It's got to brake well.
You don't want to be having to do a brake upgrade like you did on your Lancer.
That doesn't work. It's got to be no more than about 10 years old. No more than really 100,000 Ks. I don't want a high K car. It has to be forced induction. I want a car that actually has a usable torque graph. I don't want an NA engine.
Turbo torque. Yeah.
Turbo, supercharged. I mean, most of the engines these days are turbocharged.
So minimum what? Minimum 200 horsepower.
Yep. 200 would be probably about the absolute lowest, because even then you're looking at the power to weight with a weight.
Yeah, because a lot of later model 4-cylinder smaller cars weigh a lot more than they did 15 years ago. All right.
So what's the
so I've actually made a short list based on your stipulations. Now, saying you didn't want the XR6 turbo, I did find a couple that met under there, but you did say you wanted it handling and you didn't want another big barge.
Does it come with a 6-pack of diff pushers or?
Okay, so keeping in the Ford theme, you've actually got the smaller car of what you had, the Focus XR5. I think they're an ST overseas, 5-cylinder turbo.
So people don't know the Mondeo and the Focus share the exact same engine. It's pretty much
the Mondeo made more power, didn't it?
No, I think it made 2 kilowatts less. Work that out.
2 kilowatts less.
I don't know why the tunes were slightly different, but anyway, Focus is a smaller version. Well, it's not really a smaller version. It just has a lot of the same bits in it, so it has the same Volvo 5-cylinder in it that the Mondeo has.
They're not finished off that great inside.
The Focus is, to be fair, in comparison, the XR5s compared to the Mondeo, they're very different cars.
Yeah,
it's a different price point.
All right, they're a bit older, but what about a Ford Focus ST EcoBoost 2-litre? 2-litre turbo, 1420 kilos. So it's got 184 kilowatts, 340 newton meters, 2,000 to 4,500. That's a very nice torque spread for a small engine.
That's one car. It does tick a lot of boxes actually, and it gets a lot of pretty good reviews as an everyday car. It's a pretty usable car, so that's definitely one. We'll give that a tick. I think it fits all the boxes.
The Volvo C30 T5. That's basically that was basically the XR5 Focus. You remember Volvo? So they're getting a bit long in the tooth now.
Yeah,
a few have come up.
They're kind of an odd-looking car. I don't like the interiors. There's something about Volvo interiors. I don't know what the current Volvos are, but if you go back a generation, they're very flat and bland.
The rear window's a bit odd. It's got this sort of square rear window. Now, one car that I like in the older model, but not the newer one, is the Mazda MPS. Or I think in the States they're called a Mazda Speed. Is that right?
Mazda Speed, yeah. Mazda Speed 3 or something.
Great engine. 2.3 litre.
Slightly bigger engine. What, 190
kilowatts, 300 newton meters at 3,000 RPM, 0 to 100 in 6.1 seconds. Although, with front-wheel drive turbo cars, the 0 to 100 times are kind of meaningless because you really can't take off at full throttle. So if you've got a car that is listed at, say, 6.1 seconds or 6 seconds flat, to drive it, it feels like it does 0 to 100 in, say, 5.5. Do you know what I mean? If you just go in gear acceleration.
I'm sitting there launching your car off the lights every time you drive.
So effectively,
the stat to me is not that.
Yeah, it's not.
It's a bit meaningless.
They make good torque, and they're a great engine.
They're a bit older now, and
the older model I think looks far better. The newer model with the fish grills.
Yeah, the weird gills and bits hanging off it, and
if you get a side profile shot, they look like the old school Pro front wheel drive drag cars. They've got this massive
overhang
on the
front, kind of a weird butt on it. But because
they run a Top Man.
I have had a look at them in the past. A lot of them have got.
I've driven a couple.
A lot of them have got a lot of Ks. And the ones that do,
no, I found some.
They're a bit overpriced.
I found some under 100,000 Ks, but you're talking up near 20.
Yeah, for a 2000 and what year would this be?
2010.
Oh, they're that new. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's effectively nearly.
I'm not sure about these cars. I mean, they're pretty basic inside too.
All right, next. The fart machine, or actually, this isn't a fart machine because it's a manual, but like say a Mark 6 Golf GTI, 2-litre.
I think for all our bench talks, how could I turn around and buy a Golf GTI?
Bland.
Now, if you're out there going, why does it have to be a manual? I don't drive.
Hey, why do you have to drive a manual?
Well, I don't sit in traffic day to day. I don't.
Do you think it's Fast and the Furious? Just.
I just like driving a manual. If I was driving office space style to work every day, sitting in gridlock, I'd forget it. I'd get an automatic.
Yeah.
But some of these cars that I like too, they don't even make them in autos.
True.
I mean, look at the barge I want to get rid of. That's manual only. Weird.
Yeah, but that's an oddball car.
Yeah.
That's an oddball car. One car that I wouldn't have even considered a couple of years ago, but I reckon they look alright.
What's that?
An Opel.
Oh, you're talking about the Opel, the real sleek-looking Opels.
It's like a really kind of sleek-looking car. So they used to be, well, effectively Holden sold them as an Astra, and then for what, all of about 14 months, is that it?
It wasn't long. It was like less than 2 years, I think.
Opel actually sold in Australia
As
under
Opel,
Opel.
yeah.
So it's an Opel Astra OPC.
So it was an Astra, and it went from a Holden Astra, but Opel Astra, and then back, I think they're selling an Astra again.
I don't know. It's effective. It's the same car. It's just rebadged. So
all I have memories is of the old Jeremy Clarkson. And he's just flooring it under understeer, just exaggerating it. But it was pretty funny, but it was woeful.
Catastrophic understeer.
I'll be honest, I haven't driven one. So I'm just going off, people just review cars based on specs, which is ridiculous. But it's a 2-litre turbo making 206 kilowatts.
Yeah, these got very good engines in
And
them.
it makes 400 Newton meters at 2,400 RPM. So that to me sounds like an engine that would
This
drive
is
pretty
actually
good.
one car, because obviously,
She's
even
a bit of a
though you made this list, I did look at some of these cars a few weeks ago. I watched some videos about this Astra, and I thought, this thing's going to be... So in the UK, it was a VXR.
Vauxhall?
Yeah, Vauxhall VXR or something, whatever the badging is. Now I was watching Chris Harris vids. You're pretty respected journo, bloody good steerer. And I'm thinking, here we go, he's going to review it and say, this thing is shit. That's your opinion of Vauxhall, and you expect... He went around and he was... And I watched a few videos, not just him, other journos saying, they're actually a pretty good car. So maybe it's one car that you shouldn't be written off. You just...
Much heavier.
Yes.
They're around 1,500 kilos.
They've got the brake
That's
package on them.
heavy
I know,
for-
it is getting heavy. That's,
For a small... It's a 2-door. For a small 2-door.
yeah, pretty...
But, like, I'd take one for a drive.
bit weird inside. They do look a bit...
Yeah.
You can tell it's not. You can tell it's not.
Spaceship,
You can tell it's not Japanese when you see the interior.
Yeah, a lot of these cars. Alright.
Mm.
Another car. Now, it used to give me shit because I bought a Megane, but a few of them popped up on the search. Mine's a Mark II, my old Nugget. Mine isn't really a daily, it's just a car I own.
Well, I haven't driven your car much apart from when I crashed into a rock. And now it's damaged.
This idiot, I get him to move it in the driveway, and he somehow... I don't know. Would you roll into a rock and it hits the sill panel?
First of all, you parked it in the garden basically with a rock. It was like putting a pin behind your tyre and then wondering why I popped the tyre.
And then you couldn't work it out of the handbrake.
And I was trying to drive it in thongs. It was a disaster.
Well, anyway, you've just caved in the sill panel, which is how much is that going to cost to fix? Anyway, so the ones that were coming up in your price range is obviously the newer Mark III. Now these are in two shapes. I kind of don't mind either. They're very different actually.
I've had a look at these cars. Initially, I was like the older one. I actually way prefer the look of the older one. The newer one, it kind of went bland, but it's kind of grown on me a bit more now. It's the same car. It's essentially the same car.
Yeah, but these are only a 2-door. This is the
Yes.
problem in that Mark III Megane. They never sold them in a... Well, look, I could be wrong, but in Australia, as far as I know, you can't buy a Megane in a 4-door, in the, the hot hatch type car.
Yep. Now, these Meganes, I have read a little bit about them. Apparently, the engines are
They are good engines, or about
unreal. Like, people say they're incredibly strong engines.
195 kilowatts, 360 Newton meters at 3,000. Now, even mine old Nugget, I've never put... That's approaching 170,000 Ks. I've never put one drop of oil in it.
Now, these are known... Put a decent set of tyres on them. These are known to
No
be...
LSD.
Yes, no LSD.
Why?
Apparently, tricky steering arm geometry or something set up, and they handle excellent. Like, very good. This is actually the car that they did some sort of R-Cup version of, and it set some... At the time, it set some front-wheel drive record around the I'll try and say...
Green Hell.
The Nürburgring. Is that right?
Nürburgring.
Nürburg.
Yeah, so they weigh 1,374 kilos. They're about 30 or 40 kilos heavier than the Mark II.
That's one car I do like the look of. The two-door is probably one factor that's not great.
I mean, this one would probably be...
They're pretty loaded. They got obviously big
Yeah.
wheels. They got Brembos. They got...
My one, I don't exactly... Like, everywhere I drive it on boost. Like, I
Yeah.
don't... It's quiet. That's one thing I like
It's
about it.
totally geared, and it's but there's no lag. It's pretty
Yeah,
responsive.
there's no lag. It'll do like 102nd gear.
Yeah.
And the thing I like about it's actually standard, that you can't hear it. You get sick of exhaust and shit. It's quiet, so you can drive it quick and no one, bats an eyelid. It's pretty good on fuel. Doesn't use much fuel, even if you drive it hard. It's
Most of these direct injection engines, later model engines, are actually noticeably, when you start doing Ks and you get a better idea how much fuel it's using, they're noticeably better than fuel. Than cars
far
from
better.
10 years, maybe 10 years.
Now, I found another car. You're going to love this one. Alfa Romeo
No.
Juliet. What? No, Alfa.
Well, go ahead.
Alfa Romeo Giulietta. Is that how you say it?
Giulietta or something.
The older one. So this is a 1.7. I've never actually even sat in one of these, so I have no experience with Alphas at all. 1.75 litre. That's an odd engine size, isn't it? 173 kilowatts, 340 newton meters at 1900 RPM. I don't know how I looked at its 0 to 100 times. It's sort of low 7, so 1320 kilos. So I don't know.
I don't know about getting an Alpha.
Don't know.
I'd be more inclined to get a French car over an Italian one, to be honest.
Really? Don't like Ferraris.
We're talking low end, not high end.
I don't know. I think a lot of those cars, these, you know, it doesn't matter what car you've got. You've just got to take it to the appropriate people to get serviced.
And get it serviced regularly.
Yeah.
Not, I'm skipping that part replacement because it's too expensive. And then 5 years down the track, you've got a car that's basically for the tip.
Yeah. Yeah. But generally, it depends where you live. In Australia, European cars are expensive to service. There's no way around it. They are. All right. Have we got any more front-wheel drives? Hey, here's another one. Gonna cop a bit of grief. I actually like these cars. I've never bought one, but I've always liked the Minis. They're a cool little car.
Yeah. Well, that weird clock thing in the middle of the dash.
I just reckon, look, they're a great track car. You see a lot of them at track days. They handle well. Saying that, look, I've never driven one hard.
Some of these cars too, you don't know. I mean, I've only test driven one of the cars out of the list. I've driven a few Golfs, and they're pretty, as you'd expect. They're kind of, I wouldn't say bland. They're finished off well. Like they're well built, but there's nothing exciting about driving a Golf generally.
No, they're sterile.
But
to be honest, my Renault's like that. There's no soul.
What I was going to say though, some of these cars, I may outlaw entirely. You sit in them and they may not have any headroom.
Oh yeah.
Like, our father once had a Prelude, like a VDIR, like a VTEC one back in the day, like the late 90s one. You get in the car and you want this.
He bought that at an auction.
He couldn't even...
So he couldn't drive it.
You get in and your head's like... And we're not overly tall and had no headroom. It was terrible. So, I mean, there's little things like that. You'll sit in the car and you may know straight away, no, this car's not
So I thought, you might want an all-wheel drive car. So obviously, WRX.
So you're going to go from all these punchy, just broad power torque bands from a lot of these other engines to complete opposite.
And the one that comes up in your...
And it uses fuel.
Oh, they're shocking on
fuel. For a 4-cylinder. I mean, to be honest, fuel consumption's not really an issue for this car.
No.
I don't do enough Ks to worry about that.
But the sort of around 2009, 2010, when they went to the worst looking Subaru they ever made.
Oh, that might as well be a small Camry.
It's bland.
All the offset wheels are wrong, like they're in the guard. Terrible. Just looking at that thing.
Shocking. So no go.
The only one I consider probably is the hatch. I think the hatch.
No, you don't. You buy an STI hatch, but
that's big money. This is meant to be a cheaper car.
Another car I found: Audi A4 Quattro.
I don't know much about Audis, apart from everyone complains them and BMWs are
breakdown machines.
Yeah, and then bad repair costs. A car that you would think, especially BMWs, I hear so many horror stories about just simple 1 and 3 series, just standard cars, not even performance models. You'd think they'd be super reliable, and they aren't.
Well, there's nothing else really came up in...
So that's...
The problem is, like, people will be like, oh, what about this, what about that? He's got stipulations, like, in terms of it's got to be less than 10 years old, and it's got to have less, you know...
So basically, there's hardly any rear-wheel drives on the market that fit the...
They're all front-wheel drives.
Did you do a search for rear-wheel drives?
No, I did a search, and then I changed the kilometres, like 150,000, and a few XR6s started coming in. But most cars, I tell you, most cars like, say, Falcons, WRXs, they've all got high Ks.
Yeah.
A lot of Ks. You wanted something with low Ks, it's fair enough.
It's amazing, too, when you start doing some of these searches. Luke was looking at everything on car sales. Why, like, a car will be $50,000.
And these prices are on the Australian website car sales. We're not going off bullshit Gumtree prices.
No.
Cars with no roadworthies. You know what I mean?
Shit
There's some
boxes.
total rubbish on car. And that's not indicative of...
What I was saying was that it's amazing, though. You'll get a $50,000 car, basically. It's 5 years old. It's 18 grand.
Yeah, I know.
This is why I prefer to buy a car that's only 5 years old or something.
I'd rather buy a car that's 5 years old, hang on to it for 3 or 4 years, sell it, buy another car that's 5 years old. I don't know. I can't justify buying a new car.
No.
The depreciation... I've only ever bought one car on finance, and that actually was second hand. Because I still was the same. I'm like, I'd rather buy something a few years old. It's not my cup of tea. I'd rather buy. It sounds stupid. I'd rather have two cars, two second-hand cars, than one. I get total. Doesn't matter what I'm driving. I get so bored driving the same.
Bear
car
in mind
again.
too, I don't really reckon this car is going to be modified.
Nah.
You have intentions. Oh, I'll put a tune in. I'll do this, and then you kind of like, if you got another car that's kind of a little money pit or something, why would you bother doing this thing up?
Yeah, considering the GSR never actually leaves the driveway, you're going to be this is going to be your only form of
It's
transport.
ever running on 4 cylinders, that Nugget.
All right, now. So besides the XR6, I did find you a car. It doesn't quite meet your criteria, but it came up in the search results.
What's that?
$35,000 kilometers. It's for sale for like 15.5 grand. 35,000 Ks.
I said I wanted a reliable car.
It's red, so it must be faster. So I reckon we go to the bank now and get some money out. Give this person a deposit.
Our survey says...
Not a hope.
So you've been over a list that you've shown me. There's some good. I think there's some good choices there.
I've driven a few of these cars. They're all okay.
A few that stand out to me out of that list are probably the Focus ST.
The Mazda MPS is a nice car.
This is a bit dated, that's all. When you compare it to a next generation car, like you go,
Yeah, I know
because
what you
even
mean.
though that might be come up as a 2010 or 11, it's really a 2005 model.
Yeah,
kind
I know.
of.
Because you mentioned stuff like some of these cars, it's surprising, they're only 10 years old. They don't have things like Bluetooth connectivity.
Yeah.
And things like that, once you've had it and then you don't have it, like, yeah.
I'm probably keen to drive the Focus, the Renault.
You're going to drive a Renault.
I'll give it a go.
The practical two-door. Is it a liftback? I don't even know much.
No, they're hatchbacks. Of course they are.
Same. I've never driven one, the later one.
Hatchbacks, and then your seats go down, and so you slide your luggage in.
Yeah, I'll be honest, the only Renault I've ever driven is mine.
I don't know. Anyway, what do you think? And like, here we go. So just going to be comments about Alice the World.
Answer staring him in the face, but you could get a turbo LS.
Yeah, maybe if they sold a Corvette.
Boosted
Practicality.
one. LSA.
LSA.
Under 20 grand.
Under 20 grand.
I don't think so.
Anyway, maybe give us an idea of what you think. Have you driven any of these cars? What are your opinions of them?
It's easy. It's very easy to dismiss cars. I see so many people saying, piece of crap, you know, oh yeah, Kia, Stinger, rubbish, whatever, and you think, have you actually driven one?
I know.
Some cars I've sort of looked forward to driving, and I've driven them and gone, yeah.
They've been the opposite, and
They've
some
been the
surprise
opposite,
you.
and some surprise you. But
You can't look on paper. Yes, you can get an idea of what. Okay, this is a group of cars I like to look at. They're all going to drive differently. Some of them you like.
I will say though, one thing like with front wheel drives, like I think if you've got a standard front wheel drive, even these hot hatches in the dry, it does not matter that they're front wheel drive for most of the time.
Good set of tyres makes a
Good
big
set of
difference.
tyres does make a difference, but in the wet, massive difference. If you've got an all-wheel drive car in the wet, not that you drive like a dick, but you don't really change your driving style. You just drive it exactly the same. You know what I mean? Like in the wet in a front wheel drive, if you just got a turbo one, if you're just sort of loading up,
You're just going to see that ESC light on flat out, and if it doesn't have that, forget it. You're going to be tramping and.
yeah. But I mean, obviously, you should be driving like a tool in the wet. But there is quite a few times where you clutch back in. You know what I mean? Like you're fanning the clutch to take off, but hey, what do? Everything's flaming front wheel drive.
I know.
Or you know what? I guarantee you there'll be the first comment. I'd rather buy an XR6 and spend 50 grand on it.
50.
You see that all the time. Bloke has a $100,000 car. Oh, you'd get whipped by an XR6 for 50 grand. And it's like,